Right, so I've been getting some results. Yesterday I did nothing but procrastinate. But I did manage to see some results from everything that I'm doing. I made new rubber bands because the other ones were worn out. Yesterday I got to see how yesterday I got to see how naturally everything that how I've worked, all the effort that I've made came out naturally. So, but I still can't celebrate because those changes, you never know. Those changes might just be temporary, right? When you start seeing changes, you need to keep going until something locks them into place. Something locks the habit into place to make sure that you don't change back to your old form. So even though I've been seeing some results, that still doesn't change the fact that I was procrastinating. 1, 2. I need to make sure that I don't change back. So I can't just quit at this point. So I got to keep going, still full force with the experiments and with my efforts to accomplish what I need to accomplish. To accomplish the transformation. Let's call it that. Let's call it transformation. There's one problem, and this problem became... When was it? Do something illegal right now. Hold on. This problem became apparent. It didn't become apparent. Just kind of like everything else I have inklings of ideas, but there comes a point in which I make them explicit, which they become explicit enough, or they weigh enough for me to write them down. So this, let's see, what is it called? Just yesterday. Oh, okay. Yeah, so just yesterday, this problem became explicit, and I call it fate maker. It's kind of like something that dictates your fate. And now let me give you. So now that I give it my own name, or something that I would call it, if I were to make it explicit first. But it's something compared to. I've already read this book, so because I was already familiar with the idea, I hadn't just made it explicit. I'll give myself credit for the originality of this, but I did read a book before I made it explicit for myself. I did read a book that made it explicit for me. So let me give you the chronology of how this works. I had inklings of this idea, and I do think about it, from time to time. It does come up a lot. For this idea specifically, it did come up a lot. Then I read a book that gave me that idea. And I did recognize it, but it wasn't relevant enough for me to for me to actually start writing about it. Now it is relevant, but it's just not where I was functioning. It's just not where I was working everything out at that point in my project. At this point, I think I got to start working with it because it's relentless and it's starting to begin a problem. This is so the book that I read and the idea that it mentions, it's Maltz. What was his first name? Dr. Maltz. Something Maltz. Anyways, so Dr. Maltz's idea of Dr. Maltz, the psycho-cybernetics guy, his idea of the self-image. The self-image will dictate your wins and your losses, you know. And if you win too much, the self-image will try to keep your identity attached to the same level of success. Because if you succeed too much, then you're not yourself anymore. And if you succeed too little, then you're not yourself anymore. Anyways, so I need to find a way to manipulate that. For myself, I call it the dictator because it dictates your future. Maybe like a fortune teller in the sense that it doesn't say what's going to happen. It says what's going. It actually is the same words but different meaning. It doesn't say what's going to happen, but it says, as in dictates what's going to happen. It commands what's going to happen. That's kind of a fortune teller. It's a fortune commander because it tells you what you're going to do. It tells you what you're going to decide. What your fate, what you're going to decide your fate to be. So that's why I call it a dictator, because it dictates and the word has some type of a sense of that control that it has over your fate. Another word that I'm considering to call it is fate maker, but you know that's I don't really like the sound of that. So I might come up with another word for it. But yeah, that's what it is. And this morning I woke up. I heard 2 explosions, and they were actual explosions outside of my house. In a distant. Now, I've heard loud explosions before because I've made fireworks, but I've never, you know, the illegal fireworks and whatnot. But I've never heard explosions as loud as these. These are the loudest explosions I've heard. And the reason I say that was because these explosions were so loud that I thought they were bombs. Now I'm sure if they were actual bombs, like a friggin' like an atom bomb or something, or some crazy bomb like that. I'm sure if they were actual bombs, the explosion would like unimaginably loud and unimaginably long. And maybe it would be so loud that I wouldn't even recognize it as an explosion, but maybe just as a roar, maybe. But when I woke up, I thought they were atom bombs. And the thoughts that crossed my mind as I was hearing that, it was like, well, I guess that makes sense. You know, because of all the success that I'm having, it would only make sense, you know, just to keep things normal, just to keep me at a level of success that I'm normal to, that I'm, you know, it would make sense that I would have to die, that it would have to end here. And you know, that's also not a new thought, because whenever there's a flood in the world, whenever there's like the mass amounts of deaths somewhere in the world, I always wonder, of all the stories there, of the people that died, I'm sure they all had ambitions. I'm sure they all had dreams and plans, and all of those came to nothing. I'm sure there might be a few that were just like me, you know. They all had somewhere to go. They all needed to tie their knots somewhere. As important as I may seem, I'm sure there's people there that that believe that they have the same amount of importance. And the universe is merciless. It doesn't care what you have. It doesn't care where in your life. If you're at the climax, it doesn't care if you're at the cliffhanger of your life, in the story of your life. It just washes away like it never existed. That is real life. And so I kind of imagined that for myself, like, oh, this is the way it ends. That's fine. So, and that's my fate maker, you know? As I was thinking about that, I didn't want to forget that moment, so I went on Facebook and I posted morbid fate. Amen. Just kind of remember what and then I went back to sleep right away. And then as, you know, like, I don't know, my mind trying to get out of, okay, so that's kind of like, my fate maker is kind of like making that fate. But for some reason is, you know, it's my success that it needs to control. So it's my success that the dictator needs to control. So my success would be that. My success would be like, for the cost, or you know, the cost of me having success in my project and discovering this, and the cost would be like letting everything go, letting all my ambitions go, or not succeeding in any of my personal ambitions, in any other of my personal ambitions. That's the cost, because I got to give everything up. I cannot have my cake and eat it too. Have the cake and eat it too. You know, that's self-image talk. Can't have your cake and eat it too. That's limitation. And deep inside, I believe that you can have your cake and eat it too. Because I've had the experience of being able to have the cake and eat it too. And you know, if you really follow the metaphor, it should be logically impossible to have your cake and eat it too. You know, if you eat the cake, you don't have it anymore. But I know there's a way. You know, like there's just beyond logic, dude. Right? I've had it and it's real. I don't. Anyways, I'm not gonna argue against logic today. But as far as my dictator, you cannot have your cake and eat it too. So I have to die. But just because I can't have my cake and eat it too, as you know, because the fate maker is dictating my fate. It doesn't mean that all my efforts have to go to waste. So I was thinking of a scenario in which, I don't know, I cause an accident, or I get in an accident, and this would be a perfect fate to match what the dictator is trying to do with me, and I still have the satisfaction of accomplishing my dreams. If I were in an accident and if I were to forget everything about my life, but all my successes and all my thinking tendencies and the way I've arranged my brain to think up to that point, you know, the practicality that I've trained my brain to have, I'd rediscovered the project. I accomplished all the dreams that the past me would have had, but I don't seek to, and I don't accomplish all the ambitions all the other personal ambitions that I had, because I don't remember them. So that would be a perfect fate as far as my dictator. But you know, it's unnecessary. Ultimately, I do believe that that narrative, that story, is unnecessary, and I will find a way to alter this dictator. Maybe put another dictator. As far as the dictator, here's how I noticed it. I noticed it yesterday when I made it explicit. I noticed that, you know, you kind of get glimpses of it, so you kind of notice it before. But yesterday when I when I made it explicit, I was like, I'm this far into my project, so that means that this, and that. You know, your mind is adjusting the success already automatically, and you can notice it too. If you pay attention. That whenever something good happens, that thought that breaks in and says, "Oh, so that means this can't happen. That means that you'll fail at this." You know, it's kind of that feeling. So that means that I have to go in there, go to that point, see what it is that controls the amount of success that I have. Those little thoughts. See where those thoughts come from. See what controls those thoughts, and see if I can alter whoever is on the throne there. Yeah. So, dictator, I'm coming for you.